We are live.
Good evening and welcome to the, what is today? January 27th, sorry about that, 2021 meeting of the East Hampton Town Planning Board. We have a very full agenda this evening, so we will get right to it. We have one matter on for sub-waiver review, four matters on, actually, looks like three matters on for site plan. And then we have a few matters on for, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong sheet, I'm looking at the regular. Yeah, that's what I thought. Four matters on for site plan review, one matter on an artist studio, and then we have some resolutions in our regular meeting. My apologies, I was reading the pages in the wrong order. So let's get started. Is Eric here, by the way?
No, I'm covering for Eric tonight.
Okay, thanks very much, Kim. Let's see, we have the shared generator program, which Joanne, you'll be starting us off with.
I see Christopher Fishers is on the applicant.
Make sure that yes.
Sam, I know we're missing a couple of you. Do you want to maybe do like a quick roll call just to we're clear who's here?
Let me see. All right, well, let me start then. Left to right, is Ed Krug, do I see you there?
Yep, I'm
here.
here.
You are, Ed, okay. Lou Cortese, is he there?
Oh, we're missing Sharon and Ed.
I see Sharon just popped on.
Having computer issues, sorry.
All right, so we have Ian, I see you. Then to my right, then I have Kathy. I see Kathy. I see Randy. There's Randy. Sharon, so the only one we're missing right now is Lou.
Who?
Lou's the only member who's not with us at this moment. So we do have a quorum, so we can get started.
Wait, who's missing?
Lou Cortez.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I thought you said me, so.
No, you
Okay.
were, but since I went my left to my right, from back in the old days when we would actually sit in a room together, you made it in well under the belt.
Okay. I'm gonna turn that one light off. It's
Yes, it is. It's shining brightly.
there
Okay.
you go. That's a little better.
The shared generator program site plan is an application to add a generator associated with cable equipment on personal wireless facility at a tower located at the Amagansett Fire Department. There was a public hearing on December 9th that was held open until January the 8th. One member of the public spoke at the hearing and 3 letters were received. The primary public concern expressed by the board was that of noise from the proposed diesel generator. A neighbor spoke of the noise being generated by existing equipment at the site, stating that the existing noise is excessive and negatively affecting them, and expressed concern that additional noise from the proposed diesel generator would exacerbate the situation. The planning department notes that Chapter 185 of the town code limits the amount of noise allowed to be generated on all properties in the town as measured at the property line. Should there be an existing condition of excessive noise, then the appropriate recourse is to notify ordinance enforcement. The planning board repeatedly discussed the potential for adverse impacts as a result of the noise. The issue was discussed at the time of the initial review in March 2019. The applicant subsequently submitted sound information for the diesel generator that did not clearly indicate that the noise standards of the town code could be met and was not found adequate by the planning board, which then directed the applicants to provide sound attenuation measures, such as placing the generator below ground or providing a sound reducing enclosure. The applicants performed a sound test received February the 25th of 2020 by temporarily bringing the proposed generator to the site and taking sound readings at 4 different locations, including in close proximity to the generator, which has been provided with a sound attenuating enclosure. And that test showed that the noise levels were complying with the town code. We have a memo from the Office of Fire Prevention saying that no further information or firefighting devices are required. And so in conclusion, provided the board feels that the public concerns have been adequately addressed, then the application is ready for approval.
Does the applicant have anything that they wish to add at this point?
Good evening, Chairman. Really briefly, I think the planner's memo did a nice job of marshaling the evidence and just explaining the compliance of the unit and our client's incorporation of sound attenuation. The only other note I saw was the recommendation for a condition that this project also obtain ARB board approval. I assume that's something fairly standard in the town. The one question I had was whether or not, because this is not a new structure, new building, and the unit is kind of aesthetically pre-manufactured, whether or not that may be a condition that we could have waived in this instance. I know that usually would take some conversation with buildings and maybe ARB, but was asking whether or not that would be required here. That was all. Thank you, Chairman.
Is the sound attenuation associated with fencing?
The sound attenuation is it's actually made by the manufacturer itself, and it's a additional component of the unit itself. So it's kind of a prefabricated piece, if you will.
All right, we'll take a look at this tomorrow, and we will not include that as a condition if it's not needed.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Sharon, yours.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, no, I think the planning board did a good job of just making sure that, the noise standards were adhered to, and, they stayed on that, and the applicant has demonstrated that they do comply. So I do feel like we can move on with this, and, they've done an enclosure that has helped with the sound, and I believe that, they've taken care of what they need to take care of. So I move to approve this application.
Great. You want to make the motion? Okay.
If everybody else agrees with me, yes.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Is there a second on that motion?
I second. Lou
Thank you.
Cortese.
Welcome. All right, I guess we'll move right into the motion then. All those in favor of approval?
Discussion.
You want a discussion?
I'm just a question about the enclosure. Does the planning department have a drawing or a photograph of what it looks like? I'm just wondering if it's like a shed, an all-weather shed, or is it just a wall around the thing, or what?
Joanne, do you have such a thing?
I have the file here. Again, this was Eric's application, who's not here. I don't see something in the file showing what it looks like. Looking at it quickly. I have the generator. I have sound things. I don't see something in the file.
Could the applicant, Mr. Fisher, could you give us a little information on that?
Sure. I'll try to describe it. It's not a wall or a building or a shed that gets built around the actual generator unit. The manufacturers themselves manufacture sound attenuation for situations like this where you have a sound compliance question. And it really is part of the unit itself. It's additional to. It doesn't really change the footprint. So what I would think of it as is a metal casing that is installed around the noise component units. It slips onto the unit. It would have baffling and other noise attenuation. But for all practical purposes, it doesn't look any really different than any other generator. It just has this additional component on it that attenuates the noise.
And it's obviously it's all weather. This is out in the weather, and it's designed for that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Good, Randy?
Yep.
Anyone else have any questions before we move back to the question of approval? Anyone else? All right, in that case, all those in favor of declaring that this is ready, what were the exact words that we're going with? Ready for approval? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I think I hear 7-0 for approval.
I'm abstaining. I'm going to abstain
Abstain?
from this. I am going to abstain.
Oh, okay. All right. Kathy, was that an abstention? Or was
Yeah,
that
I'm
a-
going to abstain also.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let me do a roll call in that case. All right, Ed, you're abstained. Lou,
Aye.
Ian,
Aye.
Kathy,
Abstain.
Randy.
Can I just ask Ed and Kathy, is this about the
Randy.
not having the fuel tank? All right. So,
I don't think it's,
all right, I'm an aye.
Thank you. And Sharon,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that's 5-4, 0 against, 2 abstentions. Okay,
Thank you, Chairman. Have a good evening.
thank you. Okay, very well. Okay, on to the next, which is Wayne Scott Wombles 2. And let's see, Britain's iPad. So I think This is-
There she is.
this is Ms. Bistrian's, right? Yes, it is. Okay,
Yes.
very good. All right. Did you have counsel on this as well? Or is it
Just me.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, Marka, this is yours.
Okay, you guys should have it on your screen. You guys see the plans?
No.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, okay. All right, so the subject parcel is 14,053 square feet located on Montauk Highway in an A residence zoning district. An existing 830 square foot building containing a pre-existing non-conforming office use with a 280 square foot carport was previously demolished and replaced in a different portion of the property closer to the highway, but is conforming to zoning and has a valid certificate of occupancy. A revised site plan has been submitted to relocate existing parking spaces in the front of the parcel to the rear of the parcel, install lighting and plant landscaping around the building. In response to the prior evaluation and principal building inspector's interpretation, the applicant has revised the site plan and landscape plan and proposed 8 parking spaces. So the applicant was requested to depict the proposed building coverage and total lot coverage in the site plan and demonstrate they meet or are under the maximum allowable. The site plan has been revised to include the proposed building coverage and total lot coverage under the maximum allowed. The changes to the access to the parcel and a proposed sidewalk will require review and approval from the New York State Department of Transportation. An application should be submitted to the New York State DOT and plans and preliminary comments provided to the planning board. The proposed sidewalk is in a location that is over 2 existing drainage structures that will likely need to be removed. The New York State DOT will likely require that the curbing be extended across the front of the parcel. It is noted that if the New York State DOT approval requires work that differs from that shown on the plan, a modification of the approval may be required. A revised landscaping plan was submitted that contains a mix of native and ornamental plants. The existing vegetation surrounds the property lines, and the majority of the proposed plants are located in the front of the lot and around the building. The applicant has proposed 2 street trees to be scarlet oak, a native tree, in place of what was originally proposed Japanese saffora tree. The landscaping plan appears to show that the 2 oaks will be planted in the right-of-way between the property line and the sidewalk. However, the site plan indicates that there's only 3 feet or less available here. The applicant should relocate the trees inside the property line or submit an indication that the New York State DOT that the proposal is acceptable as is. The planning board may wish to discuss if they find the proposed landscaping plan sufficient. The applicant has submitted a revised lighting plan that contains 14 path lights, 6 recessed spotlights, and 1 wall sconce. The plan notes that the lighting fixtures will be turned off no later than 1/2 hour past closing via a timing device and will be dark skies compliant. The applicant has submitted illustrations that demonstrate the lumen levels and the overall lighting on the parcel. The fixtures appear to be full cutoff and shielded, with the majority of fixtures located in the rear of the parcel. The planning board may wish to discuss if they find the proposed lighting plan sufficient. Comments from the Chief Fire Marshal Dave Brown, dated October 16, 2020, have indicated that the project is ADA compliant and has adequate access to public water and fire hydrants for firefighting purposes. In conclusion, the application has made minor revisions to their landscaping plan and provided additional details on their lighting plan. The applicant will need approval from the New York State DOT with such information provided to the planning board. The relocation of existing parking spaces to the rear of the parcel, addition of street trees, and a proposed sidewalk are in keeping with the town's East Hampton Wainscott Hamlet report.
Very good. Thank you very much, Marco. Ms. Bistrian, do you have anything you wish to add?
No, I'd just like to give a formal response. Obviously, I'm Britton Bistrian representing Wainscott Wombles 2 at 407 Montauk Highway in Wainscott. This is the site plan revisions since the last review can be really classified as just minor tweaks. We sought to get the sort of conditional approval of the planning board. We will now go to the DOT. We are going to propose to them to get approval for the planting of those 2 oaks where they are placed. If you look at this site plan as it relates to the parcel to the east, it will create a line of trees, of street trees that sort of has a nice feel and an entrance to it. If we kick them back, they won't be in that sort of same quadrant. So we are going to seek approval for where they are. We'll also seek approval for the sidewalk, the extension of the curb, the relocation of the drainage. And once we get that approved by the DOT, we're happy to come back and not have to modify your approval. We'll get their approval and then come back and say they've approved what you've seen. But we wanted to sort of get the sentiment of the board prior to doing that. I don't think there's much to talk about the lighting or the landscaping. We did review it a couple times prior to this, so I'm open to any of the board's comments. Otherwise, I will pursue the DOT and come back to you.
Very well. All right, Randy, this is yours.
Yeah, I think it looks good. It's a nicely done site plan. Did we discuss? So the only questions I have, I think that's a good way to go. What Britain wants to do, to go to DOT with a sort of a preliminary blessing from the planning board, and then and see how they like it, instead of us approving it with a condition and then having to modify. So I think that's a good way to go. Did we ever discuss the question about alternative septic on this one? Joanne, do you remember?
I don't believe so, but I believe the building was already there. And the use was already there. So what we were approving was the parking, putting the parking lot in the back and then the new access. So I don't believe that triggers. I'd have to go back and double check, but I don't think at first glance, we thought that triggered an upgrade of the sanitary system.
It was, the building was demolished and rebuilt in another location. So I don't know if that.
So let me just step in here. The building was replaced in kind and had an associated new septic system that was installed. It was prior to the IA town code. So This has a new septic system, reasonably new within the last, 2 years, 3 years maybe. So, and this application in front of you, the only thing that came under the planning board review, because it was a mold replacement like in kind, was the creation of the parking lot, the landscaping and lighting. So there's no nexus here, as there's no construction affiliated with it, just the parking lot to recommend an IA. And it's a brand new conventional system. It's not failing.
Thank you, Britton. Any other questions or comments, Randy?
ARB
We have ARB?
or because it's just parking, I guess there's no ARB.
No.
I don't know that they have jurisdiction. Maybe Thomas could weigh in on that. I don't think they have jurisdiction on asphalt and.
It's in the code that there's no jurisdiction for asphalt. Are there any fences proposed?
Just the stockade around the dumpster, but if we cut it to 4 feet, maybe it wouldn't be.
For the ARB then.
That would, the fencing would be the only thing that would trigger ARB, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I can check, but I don't know off the top of my head, but I can look into it.
The code excludes parking lots from requiring ARB review.
Yeah.
So if, they already have a CO on the building. Okay.
That's it?
Yep.
Yeah, does anyone else have any comments or questions for Marco or for the applicant? Any members? In that case, hearing none.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. This is Mike from LTV. There's a caller on the line. I don't know if you'd want to take it.
On this application?
I don't know what they're calling for. I just wanted you to know
Let's
there's a
find
caller.
out. Well, if it's about this application, let's see what it is.
All right. I'll
You
unmute that.
can bring them in. Go ahead.
The last 4 digits of their phone are 0299. I'll unmute now.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Board. This is Carolyn
Hello.
Logan Gluck. I'm a resident of Wainscott, and thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the revised landscaping plan. As we know, the Hamlet study called for all pre-existing non-conforming uses of property south of the highway to revert. And so anything that can be done to integrate these uses into the natural environment are most appreciated. So thank you so much to everybody involved who moved towards that effort. Thank you.
Very good. Anything? That's it? I guess that's it. Okay. So we'll move into the question. Does the planning board find the submitted information regarding landscaping and lighting sufficient? Anyone disagree with that? Probably the easier way to do it on this particular question. Does anyone disagree with that point?
Nope.
No? Hearing none? Then the answer to that is yes. And the next one is, should the applicant provide a copy of the applicant's plan submitted to the New York State Department of Transportation and preliminary comments regarding their work in the right of way? And I think Randy thought that it was a good idea. I'll speak for myself. I think it's a good idea. Does anybody not think it's a good idea?
Nope, good idea.
Yes, so it's a good idea. All right. And then the next question is pretty much the same question, just a different way. Should comments from the New York State Department of Transportation be provided before deeming the application complete and scheduling a public hearing? And I presume we all agree with that.
Yes.
I wouldn't think we would suddenly change between those two questions. So, okay, there we are.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next is NCW at Amagansett Fire Department Modification 2. And I guess, Joanne, you're going to cover that one?
Marco, would you put the plans up for me, please?
This is, I see Yvonne Rose and John Davey.
Thank you.
On just, if you want to make sure that they're able to speak.
Yep, opening them up now.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Yeah, just give me a second.
This is an application to modify an existing personal wire, the service facility, also located at the Amagansett Fire Department. So they want to remove 9 antennas. There's the profile. The left is what's existing and the right is what's proposed. So they want to remove 9 antennas and 3 remote radio heads, along with associated equipment and cabling, and replace them with 9 antennas and 9 RRHs, along with associated, which would be remote radio heads, along with associated cabling. It's an existing 150-foot tower. The application also involves the removal of 5 existing equipment cabinets and replacing them with 3 new equipment cabinets. The applicants have not submitted photographs of the existing antenna arrays, but have illustrated in the submitted elevation drawings that what antennas are to be replaced. It does not appear that there will be any substantial impacts to the appearance of the existing facility, as no net increase in antennas or remote radio heads on the tower are proposed. The board should determine if any additional information pertaining to potential visual impact should be submitted. The application involves the removal of ground level equipment, as 5 equipment cabinets will be replaced by 3. However, the plans in the application form do not indicate whether or not any new sound generating equipment is proposed. It does not appear that any new generators are proposed. The board should discuss with the applicants whether or not any of the newly proposed ground level equipment will produce additional noise, and if so, information demonstrating compliance with Chapter 1885 of the Town Code should be provided. The applicants have submitted an RF engineer's report, which verifies that the proposed changes to the facility will be in compliance with the Federal Communications Commission standards. The applicants have also submitted a structural analysis, which verifies that the existing tower can accommodate the proposed new antennas. And the Office of Fire Prevention has indicated that they have no comments on the application. This is a Tier 2 modification, which qualifies as a minor site plan, making them eligible to have the public hearing waived. The facility is in a highly visible area along the town's main roadway. However, the board has previously approved this facility, and a public hearing was held at that time in 2016. No members of the public spoke at this hearing, and no written comments were submitted. As the board did not require a public hearing for the previous application, the board may wish to require one at this time for consistency. However, the subject application does not add any additional equipment to the facility and is not anticipated to have any obvious change to the overall appearance. In conclusion, the board should discuss the potential visual and noise impacts and determine if any additional information is needed and whether or not a public hearing will be required.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Thanks for pinch hitting there. Does the applicant wish to be heard with respect to this application?
I can just address any questions or concerns that you have. Thank you.
Okay, very well. In that case, Kathy, this is yours.
Okay, thanks, Sam. So this is a relatively minor swap out. I guess for Ms. Rose, if you can answer whether the cabinets that are proposed to be installed will contain any noise generating equipment. Can you tell us what the cabinets will contain?
The 3 cabinets that are replacing the 5, they have a small internal cooling fan, kind of like in your PC. And I got from the manufacturers that from a distance of about 5 feet, it's 65 decibels. And it reduces about 6 decibels each time that you double that feet. So it's kind of comparable to maybe a refrigerator, but it's no louder than what is already there. So we're taking out 5 and we're putting in 3. I feel like we're really compliant with your town code on that.
Okay, that sounds good, but I just ask you to submit to the file what those things are so that we have a comprehensive understanding, that way with next time it comes up, people are saying, what's in those cabinets anyway? We'll just make it more complete.
Okay.
And it would
absolutely
give us the, and then if you could include those sound readings, as part of the your assessment of compliance with the town code, then that would be helpful. It's a particular concern to me because this is residentially zoned and it's in a residential district, even though there's a bunch of stuff there and it's the firehouse, it's a residentially zoned piece of property. So that, I think that takes care of that piece of it for me. And I don't know what other, I guess the visual impacts, if 3 are coming out, I'm not sure what the sizes of that are. It seems to me like you're making it more efficient and maybe it's less room or it's taking up a little less room because that would be helpful there.
Kathy, on the drawing that Marco has up, the left one's what's there now.
Right.
The right one is what's proposed.
Right. No, what I meant is I guess, I don't know whether the ARB needs to be brought into this for the visual impacts or not. I think this is it looks like an improvement to me, but unless they're like day glow orange or something, I don't know, but perhaps the protocol would be to have the ARB weigh in on it. I could.
Why?
Pardon?
Well, I'm wondering why. What do you think triggers ARB?
Just the color of the thing or something. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not suggesting it needs to be done. I don't know if it should be done or not. It's not clear to me. I'm fine with it as it is. I don't particularly feel like it needs to go before the ARB, but there may be a requirement there that I'm not aware of.
The code says that all buildings and structures which require site plan approval require review by the ARB, and then it exempts parking lots, tennis courts, swimming pools. So it appears
then we
probably does.
This is not exempt. My read on that would be this is not exempt and we'll have to go before the ARB.
Ed, did you have something you wanted to say on that? Ed?
Sorry, if I could just
let me Thomas go, then we'll come back.
I'll look at that. I'm not, entirely sure, but let me look at it and I'll get you an answer on that.
I mean, as I said, I don't have any problem with it not doing that, but if we're not observing the proper protocol, then we have to do that. If the code requires us to make sure the ARB has had a look at it, then that's what we must do.
Right.
I'm inclined to waive the public hearing because we did have a public hearing on it the first time, but I could go either way on that. If people think we should, there's a part of me that feels like because it's in a residential district, we should have a public hearing on it. I'd like to hear what the rest of my colleagues have to say about that. That's it for me.
Yeah, when it comes to public hearing, I always like to get the sense of the full board. Ed, did you have something you were?
No, I'm fine with this. Generally speaking, I was curious too about whether the ARB needed, from a protocol perspective to look at it. When I was on the ARB, it seemed that we looked at all towers. So we'll figure that out. But I was curious, where is this on the site? Can you go to the site plan? I just wanted to be sure I'm clear about where it is.
Where's 27?
It's in the back there. It's kind of behind the The firehouse itself, they have a little, as you can see that you would have to park your car and walk around to get to see it. You know, it's on the northern part of that lot, kind of hidden a little bit by the fire station itself.
All right, so there's Main Street. So, it's back there. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Back by the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Right. You can see it coming down Old Stone Highway. Yeah.
Right.
All right. I just wanted to be sure I understood where it was. That's all.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any other? I'm gonna go around the table about the public hearing issue. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions, comments, specifically regarding the potential visual impacts and the potential noise impacts?
Well, I agree with Kathy and Ed that to me, this is one of the most unattractive tower complexes. It's a competition between this one and the one by the town hall courtroom. And I know that people, we all need and want this service, but if there's any way that the companies can try to blend in better in a historic, Amagansett has a historic district, and you see this tower. If you ever go to the golf club there, this tower is really highly visible from that spot too. So that's my only comment. Maybe the ARB has some ideas about colors or something, but I would just encourage word back to the manufacturer and the companies that I hope they're working on trying to make these things more visually compatible with small historic hamlets.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments they want to raise? If not, I'm just going to go around the table quickly. Public hearing, yay or nay? I'll start with you, Ed.
Not necessary.
Okay. Lou?
No.
Ian?
No.
Kathy?
I'll stick with no.
With no. Okay. Randy?
I'd be a yes.
Okay. Sharon?
Not necessary.
And I'm a not necessary also. All right. So no public hearing on this one. And we will, I guess you'll go to the ARB and come back. Go ahead. Well, actually, no. Thomas will give you advice. Thank you.
Yeah, let me look into it.
Thomas?
I'm sorry. Yeah, let me look into it. That's all I had.
Okay, so the applicant, connect with Thomas if you would, and see what you need with the ARB. And if there is no need to go to the ARB, then I guess you'll be back before us sooner rather than later.
Excuse me, Chair. This is Mike again from LTV. There is another caller on the line. I don't know if you want to take another caller at this time.
I'm kind of reluctant because we really shouldn't be doing public comment.
Just wanted you to know.
I don't think it's.
Why not?
Thomas?
Yeah, I was just saying, if we're finished, or if you feel like you're finished with this one, why don't we move on to the next and ask if they're on the next application?
Maybe
let's see what they are.
Maybe they're on this one.
Well, yeah, but we had, I don't want to get into a whole conversation about public comment in Zoom versus public comment when we had the room, but the protocol changed, and it becomes very unwieldy to try and do public comment during work sessions via Zoom. Michael, could you find out who they are and what they're here on?
I cannot unless it's live during the meeting.
All right, well then I guess we'll have to dive into that and take a chance. So put them on.
Okay.
See what
I'm meeting the caller with the last four digits 6372 right now.
Hello.
Yes, hi. Can I ask what you're calling about? Your name. I'm sorry.
Glenn Hall calling. Hello,
Sorry?
Glenn Hall. Glenn Hall.
And can I ask what you're calling about?
East End Disabilities Group and East Hampton Town and Village Disabilities Advisory Board. And I'm just trying to make sure that you're working on ADA, and I haven't heard you talk about it. It's been a while since I presented before you, and I'm looking forward to the planning board making sure that everybody that comes before them in this venue is in compliance with ADA, and is that part of your process?
Okay, this is completely off topic, but I can tell you that every time that there's a site plan application or any other application for that matter that requires ADA compliance, we definitely work with that. I would suggest that if you like, send me an email through the on my town email address, and I'll be happy to talk to you, because I can tell you personally, I have a very high level of commitment to ADA compliance, and I don't take it lightly in the least. But right now, tonight,
right, but
we have a number of matters on for site plan review. So if you don't mind, I'll be happy to talk to you. You know, not on a Wednesday night that we have a meeting, if that's all right with you.
I just want to make sure that it's part of the process.
It always is. Always.
That's all I'm asking. I tuned into you late.
Okay. Andy, were you going to say something?
Okay.
I'm just saying we now route applications to the fire marshal to ask his opinion if it meets ADA requirements on virtually every site plan. So
okay.
I think we do have it in the process now.
No, it's definitely it's done. All right.
That's all I wanted to bring up. It's been a while since I was before you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
If you want to talk more. Okay.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care now. Okay. All right. So we're done with the fire department. I'm against the fire department modification. So let's move on to the next matter, which is the QG site plan special permit on Queens Lane. And Marco, that's yours.
I see Rick and Jeff are here.
Yeah.
Jeff Freiler. Okay, very good. Thank you, Thomas. Okay.
Okay. So the site plan application has been made for a fenced-in gravel-based facility for portable sanitary units, supplies, and vehicles on a parcel containing a legally pre-existing non-conforming single-family residence. The applicant proposes a second use as a storage yard, which is a permitted use in a CI zone, although it is not specifically defined use in section 255-1-20. The property is situated on Queens Lane within the Springs Fireplace Road corridor and zone CI commercial industrial. It is 100% cleared of natural vegetation and is situated within the South Fork Special Groundwater Protection Area. The neighboring properties to the east, west, north, and south are also zone CI commercial industrial and contain industrial uses. A narrative has been submitted on behalf of the applicant by Jeffrey Frarike and has included the following information: stormwater runoff calculations for gravel area, a proposed dry well, location of existing sanitary system, additional fencing, additional landscaping in the form of 16 arborite trees along the rear portion of the property, and that there is no on-site office area for the applicant's business. The applicant has stated that an access easement will be provided over 76 Queens Lane for ingress and egress to 74 Queens Lane. However, it will be in conflict with the previously approved site plan for 76 Queens Lane, which was discussed in the previous meeting and will be reiterated in the memo. A previous narrative from the last planning board work session containing further information has been located below for the board's discussion. This includes sanitary units, storage of sanitary units, 4x4, loaded and unloaded by hand, parking of 2 commercial trucks and trailers, of which the latter is expected to remain on site 70 to 80% of the time. Entering and exiting for the vehicles are provided by driving through the neighboring 76 Queens Lane parcel Sanitary units are to be cleaned at the site of the renter according to New York State regulations. Cleaning materials are currently stored in a warehouse facility and will continue to do so. Cleaning materials consist of pine sol, water, and soap. The northern storage portion will be used more frequently than the southern portion. Given the information listed, the planning department has noted the following areas that will require additional clarification. Quantity of portable toilets being stored on site. Proposed access to be provided by a neighboring lot, 76 Queens Lane. As mentioned before, this lot has a certificate of occupancy that is dated 11/15/1996 for a parking area. For the storage of parking of vehicles only, will be in conflict with the current proposal. New York State regulations regarding the cleaning of sanitary units. Standard portable toilet cleaning procedures typically involve sanitizing the unit and pumping of the waste to be properly treated in wastewater treatment facilities. Cleaning may be conducted at the renter's site, and the applicant has referenced Title VI, New York CRR, Part 364, waste transporters, as the regulations the business is required to follow. The law states that anyone engaged in the transportation of regulated waste generated or disposed of within New York State must possess one of the following depending on the waste type: a valid New York State Part 364 waste transporter permit, or a valid New York State Part 364 waste transporter registration, or a valid New York State Part 381 waste transporter permit. The applicant should submit the necessary permits from the New York State DEC as referenced in New York CRR Part 364 to ensure that proper cleaning procedures are in place and are followed. As noted previously, the applicant proposes to provide access to this project site via 76 Queens Lane, also owned by the applicant. This lot has a previously approved site plan, which is attached to the memo. Due to its unique shape, it was approved as a storage yard for vehicles, and the following comments were noted in the previous evaluation. The applicant has agreed that only vehicles, including boats, automobiles, and trucks, utilized in the applicant's recycling business. No other materials of any kind, including trash collection bins, will be stored on site, and no space will be utilized by other parties. The following paragraph from the approved plans resolution details landscaping, that all of the existing vegetation on site, including the 20-foot width of Dayton Avenue, which has been or will be abandoned by the applicant, shall be left in its natural state and may not be cleared. In addition, the applicant shall maintain 15 white pine trees planted along the property's frontage with Queens Lane and 5 white pine trees planted along the southerly property line, as shown on a sketch submitted to the board September 16, 1996. This landscaping shall be maintained by the applicant for so long as the parking area approved by this resolution continues to exist. Aerials below demonstrate that some of the vegetation have been removed and the storage of other potential materials. The proposal will require site plan approval for changes to this adjoining site. As a reminder, the current commercial use has been operating for multiple years, well over 15, without the benefit of site plan approval, and will require a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the number of uses. Section 255-2-45A1 and 2 of the Town Code references the number of allowable uses on a lot and is referenced below. Any one residential district lot or any one residential property, 1 use. Any one commercial district lot or any one commercial property in any district, 2 uses. The definitions of commercial property and residential property listed below indicate that this is a residential property and that a commercial use would only be permitted if the residents were removed. The applicant may wish to make an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the number of uses. However, issues regarding the use of the neighboring parcel for access should be addressed by the applicant and discussed by the planning board. The subject parcel, although zoned CI, is a pre-existing non-conforming residential property with 1 use. The applicant is seeking support from the planning board for a change in the town code to allow properties zoned CI, commercial industrial, to be allowed a second use on the same property as a commercial use, notwithstanding the existence of a non-conforming single-family residence. A change in the town code will require approval from the town board of East Hampton. It is unknown how many parcels will be affected by this specific change in the town code. The planning board may wish to discuss the applicant's request for a town code change. It appears that the proposed project meets all dimensional requirements, with the exception that the storage area has been proposed right up to the rear and both side property lines. The minimum required rear and side yard setbacks from these property lines are 25 feet and 15 feet respectively. However, the board has the authority to waive accessory structure setbacks pursuant to section 255-6-63 of the town code. The board may wish to discuss determining whether or not to waive the accessory structure setbacks. No information pertaining to exterior lighting has been submitted. The applicant has stated that no lighting is to be proposed. Full site plan, including the following, is required, which is a proper title on the survey, site plan J.Cucci. In conclusion, the application is incomplete pending the resolution of the aforementioned issues and the submission of the required items.
Marco, thank you for this very thorough report on a very complicated matter. I'll move on to the applicant, Mr. Whalen. You're there, right?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. I just want to try and focus this a little bit. In the report from the planning department, it says that you're seeking support from the planning board for a change in the town code to allow the property zone CI to be allowed a second use on the same property, notwithstanding the existence of the non-conforming single-family residence. Is that an accurate description of why you're here?
It's a big part of what we would ask you to do tonight, yes. And Marco correctly, I think, stated what the code says right now. We don't disagree with the planning department's interpretation of the code. Basically, right now, if a property owner has a parcel of commercially zoned land of whatever size, and it has no existing commercial use, no legally existing commercial use, but it has on it a residence, I guess one or more residences, but if it has a residence on commercial land, the code as currently constructed prohibits any additional uses. As you probably all know, commercially zoned property typically is entitled to two principal uses. But in this unusual case where there is a residence on a commercially zoned property, the code says you're only entitled to that one principal use. So you don't get a second use that you could use for commercial purposes. I don't think that makes any sense. I mean, to the extent that there's any logic behind it, perhaps what the code is trying to do is encourage the removal of such non-conforming residences. The only point I would make to that is, and I hope and I think that all the planning board members of this board are aware of this, we have a affordable housing crisis in the town of East Hampton. I mean, I can talk about people that I know personally recently and the difficulties they've had in finding housing. But the current occupants of this property are an East Hampton family of longstanding. I think we've said previously it's a husband, wife, and I think it's the granddaughter. They're not going to be able to, from what I understand, they're not going to be able to buy a house if they leave this property. They may not be able to rent another house in East Hampton. So Mr. Cucci, who's the owner, wants to be able to keep them there. The only way to keep them there is if we can retain the house. If we have two alternatives, essentially. Well, a third alternative. The third alternative is you take the house away. If you were to accept that it would be desirable to keep the house because it is an affordable housing unit in effect in the town, then that leaves the applicant with two choices. We can apply to the Zoning Board of Appeals for variance. That's probably about a 9-month process between submitting the application, waiting to get in the hearing, the board hearing it, and then rendering a decision 2 months later. That typically comes out about 9 months. And although I would certainly hope the zoning board would understand the situation and would grant the variance, you don't know that that's going to happen. The other alternative, which would be quicker, and not only quicker for us, but also would resolve this, I think, illogical problem in the code, is to change the code. If you've got commercially zoned property and the normal rule is you get two principal uses, I really don't understand why if you happen to have a property in which the only use is a house, you're just limited to that use. It doesn't make any sense. Again, unless the purpose is to remove all houses from commercially zoned land. So I think the code should be changed. I think it should allow a second principal use in this case, in which case this would be our second use and it would be allowed. And I would like the planning board, you can move that along. The town board, whenever it has a zone change, it's required to refer that zone change or code change in the zoning code to you anyway. So you could initiate a change by suggesting to the town board that this is something they should consider. So that's what we would ask you to do.
Okay. You answered my question, which was, why not go to the ZBA? Because it strikes me that it's more like a ZBA issue than a town board issue. And I also wonder if by going to the town board, you're not painting with too broad of a brush, because, I don't know how many analogous situations there are besides your client's situation, but, that's why and again, I'm not locked in stone on this, but it strikes me that this is the kind of thing that, it's an application by application issue, and that's best handled by the ZBA rather than, changing the town code for everybody. I get what you're saying, but I wanted to get your answer to that because I wanted to do my own thinking and the board's. So I'm going to turn it over to Lou. We should discuss first, Lou, you'll come at this however you want, but I do think we need to discuss whether the board supports this as a code change. And also we need to discuss whether we support waiving setbacks, which is also an issue in this whole melange of issues. So Lou, I'm sorry to not run right to you, but
that's okay. That's all right. The way I feel about it is what Rick Whalen says about this whole issue resonates with me, and it's very convincing. I can't think of any reason to refute what he's saying. I'm on board totally, because it just seems logical to me that we do have a housing shortage, an affordable housing shortage. We also have limited space for commercial use in East Hampton. So to go by the letter of the law, the code in this case, and get rid of and have the applicant get rid of this residence, I think doesn't serve anybody. I think it doesn't serve the town, number one. It doesn't serve, obviously it doesn't serve the tenants of the residence, and it doesn't serve the applicant. I don't see what good that does. As far as going to the planning board and appeal to them to change the code, I think that before, I'm okay with that. I would go along with that. I think they would need to consider how it would affect the entire town. I'd like to know, or they should know, how many situations like this are in existence in the town before making that kind of code change, because you don't want to do something that benefits one property and then causes a problem with a bunch of other properties. So I'm for suggesting to the town board that they look at this and at least consider it. So that's my opinion on that issue. The other issue that I wanted to talk about, I read through that Title VI New York CRR Part 364 Waste Transporters Rules and Regulations. I was looking for the rule in that set of regulations that mandates the porta potties to be cleaned at the site that they're being utilized, where they're the people that rent them, at the property that rents them. I couldn't find such a rule, so I would like the applicant to specifically point that out and provide that particular rule. The only thing that I saw that was pertinent in any way, there was a regulation that said that all waste must be properly contained during transport. But that doesn't answer that question. So I would like to see that specific rule, because unless that's the case, and I have a favorable view for this application, for approving this application. But a big part, a large element that causes me to have that favorable opinion is that these porta potties are stored after they're completely clean, that there are no chemicals brought onto the site. They're not cleaned at the site. They're just being stored there after the waste is removed and they're clean. That's a big difference than any other situation where they would be brought to the site to empty or clean. So that's my opinion on that one. As far as 76 Queens Lane, that's an issue that needs to be addressed, because as Marco pointed out, that the approved site plan for that property is not being adhered to. There are storage of containers that are specifically prohibited from being stored there. I'd also, I'm not sure what Marco means when he says that the access from 76 Queens Lane to 74, how that violates the site plan for 76 Queens Lane. That's something that I'm a little confused about, that I'd like to know more about. The last item that I think is important is the neighboring residents. And I thought a lot about this because, I'm always very sensitive to doing something on a property or approving something on an applicant's property that affects, in particular, residential areas surrounding it. In this case, I think I can be more flexible after thinking about it a lot. A couple of things that mitigate my concern for that property. Number one, that residence has been there for a very long time. It's not as though it's in a residential area that's suddenly going to have a neighboring property turned into a commercial use and storage and all that kind of stuff, and they're going to relax the setback regulations. It's not that kind of thing here. This is a residence that's been in the midst of a commercial industrialized zone. They've lived with it, they're used to it. I don't think that what the applicant is proposing is going to dramatically change what has been the situation there for a long time. And also, the other thing that comforts me a bit is the fact that there is a tree line on that resident's property along the perimeter of the property. And the applicant has volunteered to add a second tree line on the applicant's property, which I think with those trees, it will act as a sufficient buffer. So that's all I have for this property. Like I said, there are some things, some very important, significant items, others not as significant, that need to be worked out. But in general, if we can work those things out, I'm in favor of approving this application and allowing that residents to remain and have the commercial use approved.
Hey, Lou, thanks very much, because that's very thoughtful and detailed analysis, and Also, thanks for looking at the NYCRR, which I know is always a joy. Let me ask you, how do you feel about the town board, the aspect of the applicant asking for our suggestion or,
Yeah, like I said, I think, I don't want to say that I would urge the town board to change the code, because I don't know how if they do change the code, for this to allow this to happen on this property, how it will affect other properties. I think I would urge them to look at it, but in looking at it, they need to consider, they need to collect data on how it will affect other similar situations throughout the town.
Yeah, it's kind of got a Rube Goldberg quality.
Yeah. So, but in general, I agree with Rick. I think it's something that I can't think of any, reason. And again, it needs to be looked at. I'm saying that without doing an in-depth analysis.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you do an in-depth analysis and find that it doesn't really negatively affect anyone, I think it's something that should be pursued.
Okay. Let me ask you one other question, then I may turn over to one quick question to the applicant. I want to talk to you about it first, and then we'll go around the board, because I want to get a sense of how the board feels, from how everybody feels about this. And that my question is this: you didn't find anything in the New York in the Code of Regs about cleaning the porta potties on site. And I think that we heard from the applicant last time that it was that they don't do it certainly at this location. If it's only a matter of the applicant's business practice that they do it that way, is that something that you're comfortable with, or do you think?
I think they would need to agree. There would have to be a condition to the approval in writing that there would be no cleaning whatsoever of those porta potties. I would be good with that, even if there isn't a New York state law requiring that they be cleaned on the site where they were utilized. But it would have to be a very specific, rigid covenant that would prevent them from cleaning it on site.
And then I just ask the applicant or counsel, is it a matter of a reg, or is it a matter of business practice that you clean it at the locations, if that's how it's done?
All right. Well, let me. Member Cortez raised about 4 items, and I think it might help your discussion if I respond to his 4 while I can still remember those. But let me answer that question first, if I could. First of all, the regulations. Lou is right. If you read the regulations, I think it's 364.4.8, and there's subparagraph I and J, which basically say you have to secure or contain, your waste material, so that they can't spill out or splash out in transit. I don't know. I would imagine that the DEC probably interprets those in practice in a more rigid way. The regulation is a little loose. We're all pretty familiar, I think, with porta potties. You've seen them. You've probably been inside them. I don't think you can travel those things, tilt them over, put them on a rack or trailer, and run them down the highway and expect that the waste in there is going to stay there. So for our client's purposes, whether, he has explained to us that the DEC doesn't allow them to be transported with waste material in them. Despite that, whether that's clear or not, that's in fact what he does. He always empties them on the site on which they're used. In answer to member Cortese raised a very important question and makes a good suggestion. Would we agree to a stipulation or a covenant, recorded covenant, that we will not be cleaning the porta potties on this site? Absolutely. I have no reservation in offering that. That's not what we would tend to do. So yes, then we totally agree to a condition, and if you needed a covenant, absolutely, that's not a problem.
Not empty or clean, right?
Right. They would be emptied and cleaned on whatever site they're actually being used on before they're transported. That's his practice now. That's what I understand the DEC wants him to do, and that's what we intend to do. So there's no room on this site. This site clearly is not set up that you could clean and empty those porta potties on the property. So that's definitely not intended to be occurring here.
Let me suggest that if it's a residential use, it would be a better thing for them to be pristine when they arrive back at the site. So,
even if there wasn't a residence on the property, but
okay, well, good, but
point well taken. But absolutely, you don't want to be doing that on this property.
Okay.
There were three other things that Lou mentioned. Can I just address them quickly?
Real quick.
All right,
so go around the table.
I just have to remember the order of them now. I guess I work from back. So with regard to the screening of the neighboring property, if you look at the plan, I mean, the first thing to do I would recommend is for the members to visit the property. You'll see the neighboring residence to the west is actually pretty well screened. I don't think they can actually see into this yard right now between the stockade fence on the property line and their existing screening, plus the additional arborvitae that we would plant. The yard is essentially invisible to them. So that's my response, and I agree with Member Cortez, his comments. But again, look at the planning department photographs in the department's memo. One other comment with regard to the town board referral. Again, I agree completely with what Lou just said. I wouldn't expect you, and I wouldn't expect the town board to simply take a referral from you and say, "Oh, yeah, okay, let's schedule a public hearing." If you think it's worth asking them to look at, then they should do their due diligence, and they should ask the planning department to examine what the department thinks the effect would be on other properties throughout the town. I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know how many properties in the town are affected by this, whether it's 1 or 8. I mean, I don't think it's 10 or 20 right now, but I don't know the number. So by all means, if this were to be referred to the town board, I would expect the board to take a close look at what it thought the ramifications of the code change would be, and before acting on it. And there was one other. Oh, and finally, with regard to the neighboring property, the 76 Queens Lane, what the benefits of what we're proposing, there'd be only one commercial access. The 76 Queens Lane property, I think what Marco was one of the things he was pointing out was that approval did have a buffer, if you will, vegetative buffer along Dayton Avenue between that property and this property. It's true, part of that buffer, I mean, I don't know how much of that buffer actually still exists, but you wouldn't have a buffer between the two commercial lots. We would be using part of that buffer for access to come in through 76 Queens Lane to get to this property. To the extent that we're using part of 76 Queens Lane for driveway access to our lot, well, then there's less room on 76 Queens Lane on which to park vehicles. So if anything, it just decreases the intensity of use on the 76 Queens Lane property. And if that requires that we submit a formal modification request for that site plan, then that's what we would do. I think that covers things.
No, thank you. I appreciate the brevity. All right, Lou. I'm sorry, not Lou. I apologize. Ed, can we start with you? I just go around the table, and I'd like comment regarding specifically about the request that we raise the issue with the town board, because that seems to me the kind of thing that I want to know how everybody feels about that. Ed?
Yeah, sure. Good, very good discussion. I did have one question though. What is? Can someone identify the property that's on the southeast corner of this survey? Where it shows driveways coming from Queens. I asked this question the last time we reviewed this. That driveways come across that property and onto 74.
I think it's a vacant lot. I think it's currently vacant, like a triangular vacant wooded lot.
Okay. So those driveways, those dirt driveways that are shown there are really not in use, and you don't intend to put them into use, I assume, right?
I do have an aerial. Just give me a couple minutes. I'm going to see if I can find it, but
Ed,
I
those
think
are the
it's
ones on King Street?
Well, they cross, which is a paper street, I believe.
Yeah,
right? But yeah, they cross King, yeah.
I'm pointing on my screen, but you can't see me doing that. So.
I mean, the main driveway is where the main driveway is, but I mean, when I was out there last, the dirt driveways were still they were traversable. I don't know to why. I mean, they might have, the resident in the house might have had a car parked in one of those driveways.
Yep. You know, it's sort of a minor point, but I just want to make sure that there's really no intention to kind of put those driveways into use since they're noted here on the survey as driveways, right? Yeah. So it sounds like that's not the intention.
I can't find it. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But there are pictures in the memo that can give you an idea of what it looks like.
Yeah, the memo has an aerial, and I think the lot in question, I think it's vacant right now.
Okay.
So it's a fairly, I would say large. It's a.
All right. So, I'm just saying, as long as the ultimate site plan here doesn't incorporate traversing, property that's not part of the applicant's, we're good with that. But, it's been a good discussion, and I definitely I support the idea of the second use. I think I would definitely encourage an application to the ZBA, and I would certainly, be happy to give my support to the idea that they should approve the second use. And I do think that it is the idea of changing the code is something that should be taken up. As you said yourself, Rick, I'm not sure whether this is going to apply to 3 properties or 15, but I think it's a really valid point. And if it prevents us from losing affordable housing elsewhere in town, great. So short and sweet.
So I'm clear, you're in favor of both ZBA and town board.
Yeah, no, I think that, even though the ZBA process is going to take some time, I think changing the town code is going to take longer. So I think in terms of an immediate fix for this, I think the ZBA is the route. That's my humble opinion. But I would support a further look into the issue in terms of whether it deserves a code change or not. I don't think those two things are incompatible.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. As you're saying it, why not? I mean, it's up to the applicant how they want to treat it. And I know they're asking us for support to the town board. But as a practical matter, there may be, you may find yourself going to the town board and taking longer there than the ZBA. But
I suspect it would. But
I'm just thinking I'd probably recommend that my client hedge his bets and go both ways.
There you go.
All right. And anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, very good. Lou, we've heard from you. So Ian, I'll come back to you at the end if you would like. Ian?
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with both Lou and Ed. I don't understand why we wouldn't allow, residential use as a second use when we allow affordable apartments, as long as we had the same rules. I do think the access over the neighboring property is an issue, but I think it's separate from the 2-use issue, with one being a residence that we're talking about now. So I'm supportive, and for what it's worth, I do think the town board should and will look into, the implications townwide, but I don't anticipate, I don't know what would come up, frankly, that would make me think this shouldn't be at least a possibility. So I'm supportive. I think the applicant's agent probably knows better than me which will be a faster process, but I was going to say exactly what Ed said, which is I wouldn't assume that the town board is going to do this quicker than the ZBA. So, I'm supportive. I think that should they get a variance or should the town code be changed by the town board, the issues remain the access and, of course, the neighbors, we talked about last time. So I don't think it's a slam dunk, even if the code does get changed, but I'm certainly supportive of it. And I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Kathy.
Well, I guess I have mixed feelings about this. I have a lot of empathy for the affordable, for the use of the home as a residence. But I don't like to feel that, I feel like we're being asked to, support a use that doesn't exist in the code, that likely didn't exist in the code for the same reason that I'm worried about it, which is that a residential use and a commercial use on the same piece of property could present safety issues that they're not necessarily compatible uses. That would be my theory on why the code read like that to begin with. My feeling is that residential use and a commercial use can be, you can have two uses on the same property, but the commercial use, to my way of thinking, has to be compatible with residential living. And, I feel badly saying that, I think that I don't think that this business is compatible with that residential use, because I know it's someone's home and I'm not trying to evict anybody, but to my mind, it's a safety issue I think the town board should investigate why this exists in the code, and if it does exist like that, because it's a safety issue, then it's really the property owner's decision whether he wants to evict his longstanding tenant and use the property as a commercial use, or let the person stay in the house and, do something else with his porta potties. I'm not, it's a little, I think it's a misplaced responsibility that we feel like we are the ones that are making the decision to, making a suggestion that's going to evict someone from their home. I don't feel that it's our obligation to justify the landlord's desire to use his property, in a non-compliant way with the code. I think I get the rationale that these folks have been living here all this time and they know the porta potties are there and they've been dealing with that. But let's just say we were in a position to approve this, which we're not, because it doesn't work. But you can't, whatever approval we give would run with the land. So my suggestion would be, if we were going to recommend that the town board review this, and with this parcel, I would like our comments to reflect that any commercial use that's coupled with a residential use should be compatible to the residential use, that there aren't safety concerns there. It just worries me terribly to think about if this family moves on and some other family moves in and they have little kids and there are trucks coming on and off the lot once or twice a day. The current situation works because it's unique, but to suggest a code change or otherwise approve this because these unique circumstances exist seems to me not in the interest of good planning. We're meant to look out over time and see, what other impacts there may be on this. Is the neighboring lot that we're talking about with that, is that residentially zoned there where that tree line is?
Commercial.
The lot that's neighboring it, the one on the
west.
The west, is that residentially zoned, or is that another one of these commercial lots with a residence on it?
I believe it's CI zoned with
So it's the same thing, right?
Similar, yeah.
Okay, well, there's an example for you. Okay, well, I'm glad to know that the applicant would be willing to double up the tree line, because if this goes forward, can't be dependent on the neighboring lot to provide the buffer. Those folks might decide to take those trees down for a different reason. I've had very conflicted feelings about this because I strongly support affordable housing, and I recognize there's a terrible shortage of that. And it really pulls at my heart to, be in this position, but I can in good conscience, recommend that this use, I just don't see this use with that residential use there as compatible. I think, if you can get you should just go forward with the ZBA. And then if we're going to send comments, I would urge us to be circumspect in how we would advise the town board to
Town board of ZBA.
permit these two uses, two disparate uses on the same lot.
Kathy, you said town board. Did you mean ZBA?
No, I said go forward with their variance application, and then if
Yeah,
we're
and then you
going
said,
to
but then you
comments
said,
at the town board, then I would ask us to be circumspect, insisting that
oh, okay.
that the commercial use be a compatible one with the residential use. If it's there people are baking or something, that it doesn't have to. There are dozen, many commercial uses that I'm sure would be compatible with a residential use. But anything with trucks coming on off the site where there's machinery that has to be moved, or porta potties or whatever else, doesn't seem to me to be a safe. It doesn't seem like it's safe. It just feels like a safety issue for me. And I still go back to the concept that the current code language is likely composed that way because for that reason, that there's, unless you can, specify the kind of commercial use that would be on a residential, on a lot that also had a residence on it, I don't see how it works.
Kathy, could I not to interrupt, but could I ask what would be the difference in a freestanding residence from an affordable housing that's already allowed, an affordable apartment? I mean, is a safety issue different, you think, if it's a separate structure?
I just make a comment. The one difference that I would see is that this is I don't know how many square feet this is, but this can probably accommodate a family, whereas the apartments that are usually associated with other commercial structures are limited in size, and they're less likely to have families living in them.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was going to say. It's rare to have a residence, I think. And I don't really know what the size of the square footage of this is, as Joanne says, because I'm pretty sure that the affordable apartments have fairly strict criteria on their dimensions and how many occupants can dwell in them and so on. And I don't think kids are allowed in them. Unless I'm mistaken about that, somebody might have that information. But
is that true that there are restrictions against kids or size?
There are size restrictions, no restrictions against kids.
Can't prohibit kids, it would be discriminatory.
No, you can't.
Okay, well, families then, I don't know. I mean, it's the X number of people, right? There.
If it's a residence, it's a residence. And, this is, this is a bigger issue than the.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying, I think for an affordable, I think Ian's question was, what is the difference between a residence and an affordable apartment? And I'm just trying to say, I think there are differences. I don't know them specifically, but my understanding is the dimension is one, and the number of occupants that can be in the apartment is another.
Well, all right. Let me. Do you have anything else on this, Kathy?
No, I was done. I was just, answering Ian's question.
Randy?
Yeah, so it's a good discussion and a complicated subject. Couple of thoughts about the bigger, I know that when I was doing, representing people in this area, there were a number of uses we worked on, like, for example, sandblasting and spray painting facility was one. Now, you wouldn't want to put an apartment or over that. So there's definitely compatibility and health issues when you're mixing CI and residential. In fact, that's sort of where zoning originated from. Incompatible industrial uses next to houses. So it does make me tend, and I guess I would say to Ian's question, which is a good one, is that usually when we approve an affordable apartment, we're also approving a use beneath it. it's usually one building, one structure. It doesn't really answer the question of what happens in the future if you have the apartment there and then somebody comes in for a change of use on the ground floor. Who's going to make the call that that use is incompatible with the apartment? Would it be the building department? It's a complicated problem, which makes me think that the best way to deal with, I like the two-pronged. I think we could certainly ask the town board to take another look at, I guess what we're saying is take a look at where there's an existing detached residence on commercial CI property, about allowing a second use that could be commercial. I don't have a problem with asking the town board to take a look at that. I do think it's different from having an apartment in a building that we approve also the ground floor use. So I would recommend the zoning board route as the most, it keeps it a unique circumstance, which I think this is. And I think it's more likely to get a result quicker. Everybody made great comments. I wanted to ask Rick, I see in this survey, there's paper streets, Dayton and King, which don't appear to have been abandoned. I'm wondering if your client has thought about that process.
On the survey they're showing as they have been abandoned.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The survey.
Oh, not on the.
Yeah, I can't speak to the other side. We'd only be able to abandon our side. And I mean, this is before I was involved, but it looks like.
Oh, I see. It says
has abandoned his half of King Street and his half of Dayton Avenue.
I'm not sure about the King Street part, but the Dayton Avenue does have a notation that says abandoned.
And yet, does it look like the lot goes out to halfway into Dayton? It almost doesn't look like.
Yeah. The look at the dark lines. That's the edge of the property. The gray line is where the street right of way used to be. So half of Dayton Avenue has been abandoned in the side, and half of King Street.
I see. Okay. The dirt driveways. I mean, I pretty much agree with Ed. I think if you've got this private property there, I think we need to have, dirt driveway to be removed. I don't think we can show a driveway over somebody else's property for a site plan. I think they should be discontinued if we go ahead. I don't have a problem waiving setbacks to something that would allow plantings, like 6 feet maybe, or I don't think waiving them all the way to the property line makes sense, because then there's no room for any screening. But certainly it doesn't have to be 25 or 15 feet. It could be, whatever we all agree is wide enough for some evergreen plantings to survive would be okay with me. The whole discussion about emptying and cleaning porta potties, where I've seen them, like you'll often see them at a construction site. It's hard for me to imagine that they would actually empty the porta potty on that site before they took it away, just because, what are you going to do with it? You're going to dump it on the person's lawn? Or?
No, you empty it into a truck. You have to.
They have a machine,
like
a septic, a honey wagon.
Yeah, pumper. Yes, exactly. Honey
wagon. Did you say?
Okay.
Yes, a honey wagon.
Let's make sure that gets in the record. All right, look, Randy, we don't need to go into their business practice. If they're willing to do it, then and covenant on it, then that should be enough for us.
Okay, so I did agree with Marco that I think we have to amend we have to modify the adjacent site plan. Yeah, so that's really it. I'm inclined to support, with the modifications to the site plan. I'm inclined to support the two uses on this site with the unique circumstances, and have the zoning board take a hard look at it. But I would vote in favor of it if you can get a ZBA relief, and we can clean up the site plan a little bit.
Let me go to Sharon.
And I just wanted to say too, I neglected to say that I feel that the other lot needs to have a modification, the site plan that shows the access. Yeah, I meant to, that was in my remarks and I forgot to include that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think there's a coupling here that we have to recognize.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that because I didn't before. So thanks for letting me interject.
Sharon?
Yeah, I think in terms of site plan cleanup, I think we know what needs to happen between modifications and, some landscaping. But, the real issue is this dual use on a commercial property. And, I'm inclined to keep this house. Like everybody else, we all know, I must know 10 people that are looking for a place to rent right now. And there's just nothing out there. And this is a situation that's been here for a very, very long time. I do think that, if this is something that's going to be looked at through the town board, that there'd have to be some, regulations, whether they have to keep it safe from the from the commercial use. And, we talked about that, I think the last time we reviewed this, that if we're going to keep this house, that, they hopefully will have a separate access and somehow fence it from the commercial use so that whoever lives there is safe from what's going on the property. And so that would be my recommendation, is that we make sure that the residence is safe from the commercial use. And, whether it's ZBA or, I think definitely it's probably going to be quicker to go through the ZBA, but I would urge the town to look into this. If we're allowing, accessory apartments on commercial property, I don't see why we can't try and keep some of these houses that are already exist. Maybe we don't build a house, on a commercial lot, but if they exist, look into how we can keep them and keep them safe.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. I think,
Mr. Chair, can I just address?
I was going to speak.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry.
Heaven forbid I not speak.
Sorry.
I think, Rick, I think what we end up, Sharon, I didn't want to cut you off. Did you?
No, that's fine. No, I think everything else has been said. I think, it's really our issue here is the residents.
Yeah, I thought this was a really incredibly useful conversation, and I hope that the applicant feels that way, because I think what we have is we've come to a pretty clear consensus here that this is an important issue that the town board should take up. Unless somebody shouts up and says, no, we shouldn't, I think we should send a letter, or, council can prepare something that we can send to the town board, say that this is an issue that's come up. We don't know how many uses or, times it's going to come up in the town, but the applicant did raise an important issue, and it's something that, the town board should look at. At the same time, this is my opinion, and I don't think, I think I'm reflecting a lot of other folks on the board, given the unique circumstances of this particular parcel, this particular residential use on this particular commercial site, the ZBA is really the place to deal with this application, because they're equipped to deal with the myriad issues that come up with this. I don't think there's any problems, or there won't be any problems with respect to the unique nature of the business, because you've said, the applicant said that they would agree to, I don't know whether it's a covenant or restriction or whatever the mechanism is, to make sure that the property isn't used to clean porta potties. I'm not concerned about that. That'll be worked out. So I think that, you know, if the applicant wants to wait for the town board to, you know, take up our suggestion that the town board look into this, you're welcome to do that. But I would think that you know, even though it may be a 9-month process in the planning, in the ZBA, you might be better off, you know, well, I think you indicated that you're going to do 2 tracks. So you may find a more expedient and more specific resolution at the ZBA. I also think,
Okay.
I think that we all agreed, and again, please, anybody speak up if they disagree, that we agree on waiving setbacks. Can I just, does anybody disagree with that?
Just how much? How far?
Yeah, I would have to know that.
Well, the applicant can come back to us with that, with some measurements. But the overall concept of waiving setbacks, I don't think there's any sentiment on the board to deny that. Right, guys?
Right, maybe just down to 6 feet or something.
Well,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, Sam, but I do think, you know, the public hearing would be important to make sure that it seems to be fitting, but.
Oh, well, we're not even, I don't think we're up to public hearing at this point on this.
No, I just mean, I would hate to give the applicant false, you know, positive feedback, because I do think that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, yeah, no, look, I don't know what the public's going to say, but I mean, just in terms of the immediate question of waiving setbacks, which is something that they're going to need guidance from us. I don't think there's any strong sentiment against waiving setbacks. It's just a question of how much. And again, that's something that, you know, will come back to us. So with all that in mind,
could I offer a couple of comments?
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. First of all, regarding the code change, I mean, my own thinking, even as this meeting has progressed, I mean, I am kind of inclined to think that we shouldn't put all, you know, the applicant should not put his eggs all in one basket. It's probably advisable to make an application to the zoning board. Having said that, I do think this is something the town board should take up. And, you know, in response to what members Cunningham and Parsons said, they had concerns about whether or not, if you allowed a second use on property that had a residential use, how would you know it would be compatible? Well, the answer is, if you have an existing commercial property in which the only use is principal, we all know that the only way you get a second commercial use on the property, the only way you can establish commercial use on commercial property is through site plan review. So this is exactly the process that any owner of land in that case would go through. And, you know, for example, the site, you know, give Randy's example, if the commercial use here was a sandblasting operation, you know, on a small lot in proximity to the residence, the planning board might say, you know what, sorry, but that's just not compatible with the residents.
Yeah.
So I think the you know, the process to protect you know, the residential occupant is already in the code.
Maybe it's a special permit use to do the.
Again, I think you're making it, you know, the issue is simply what should the number of uses. If you start to pack a lot of extraneous stuff into that, they're going to look. I don't even think, I may be wrong, but I don't think we're a special permit use. I think we're just a site plan use, right?
I really don't want to get into this.
Yeah, and I don't. The point is, I think the planning board will, when someone proposes the new commercial use and there's a residence there, the issue of compatibility is obviously going to come up, and you're going to deal with it. The second point I wanted to make is just with regard to the safety of this site. I just want you to focus on this site right now. The whole front of the property right now, facing Queens Lane, the whole front yard is really dedicated to the residents. It's a lawn, it's a yard. The driveway to the residence is all in front. Along the center to the side lines of the lot is a fence, and that fence wraps around the entire house. Notice, by the way, we've pushed the fence out on the north side of the fence, which says proposed fence, because we want to give space, you know, curtilage, if you will, a little bit of outdoor yard area, a little bit of separation from the windows on the north side. So we've even, you know, that's why that proposed fence is on the north side. So if you look at it, the actual residence is occupying essentially the front half of the lot. Fencing separates the use and back from the back half of the lot. And by separating the driveway entrances, truck traffic and things like that otherwise could be a factor if you have children. In fact, I guess there's a teenager on the property. that we're separating them. So I just wanted to address that. I do think that the way the site plan is designed, we're addressing that safety issue.
Okay, well, you know what, Rick, the next time when, you're gonna be back here on this again.
Yeah.
So, we can go through all this later, but I think you got what I don't think you got exactly what you came here looking for, but you got something that, is in the same flavor category.
It was very helpful discussion. It was very good.
Yeah, you know what, Rick, if you could say that in the new site plan, like, area devoted, residential area or something on the half facing Queens Lane, that would make it clear on the site plan.
And you can also address the, the neighboring lot also, You've got a lot of things. You've got to come back here.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if we're probably not going to be back in front of you for a while.
No, you're not. You're not.
Rick,
but this has been going on for 30 years over there. So,
Just one brief comment. It just occurred to me that the irony is that this existing residence might have more of a setback buffer to the commercial use than that residence that exists on the adjacent property.
Yeah.
That residence is closer to the commercial use than this existing residence.
But if you visit the site, Lou, it's walled off from this property. It really is.
But in terms of proximity.
Yeah, but the amount of stuff between fencing and vegetation between that lot and this lot is substantial.
Yeah.
Maybe it was built before zoning. Rick, I had one question.
Please.
One question about the variance, because it goes to the feasibility here. Do you see this as an area variance or a use?
Yeah, it's a dimensional variance. It's the number of uses. It's not the type of use. So
Ian, you had a question? Ian?
Well, I just want to say one thing, which we've sort of tiptoed around, but I do think if this proceeds and the town board allows a residential use and a commercial use, there should be a stipulation probably that says it's an affordable residence. We have not, I don't think, said that explicitly. And just to draw the parallel between the apartment and this, I do think that would be important, because if you allow any residence in a commercial use, that's a different thing. I just tell that to Rick because, that's a sacrifice on the applicant's part to keep this.
I think
I doubt he's exceeding the standards for.
Yeah, no. Ian, to answer Ian's question, I mean, I think that's the premise of the entire going to the board. I mean, if we're looking for places for affordable housing, I mean, you wouldn't, ordinarily speaking, put a McMansion on a commercial spot like
No,
this.
I agree, but there are stipulations about resale and everything that go with affordable, residences, and I think it would be important that were included explicitly and not just implied. That's all.
Well, I mean, let me put it this way: in the part of my brain that's like writing the letter as we speak, it implies the affordable housing. But I'm glad you make it explicit, because
there's a wrinkle. Yeah. There's a wrinkle with that, though, in that if you're creating a new affordable apartment and it agrees to comply with all the affordable requirements and register with the town housing office, versus a pre-existing residence that already has people living in it, it's going to be harder to say after the fact that they have to meet those standards.
Well,
so
we're creating. Look, and I really want to move on after this. We've gone on for this like over an hour. The point of it is this: the applicant raises an issue. Now, how many actual applications of this issue are going to arise is, probably very few. But nonetheless, we do affordable housing on an apartment by apartment basis in this town. It pretty much seems that way. So these are potentially 8 or 10 or 12 apartments or small houses that can be created, if you will. I know that's the wrong word. And so we're going to, use this as an opportunity to raise the issue with the town board and all those details that you're raising, and they're valid details. I know you're an expert in all this, Randy. That'll flush out, so to speak, in the matter. And with that, I'm going to now close the conversation, folks. So, Mr. Whalen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody. This was a very, very
Thank you.
good discussion, and I appreciate the detail. And Lou, I really appreciate the detail that you went in on this. So,
Have a good evening. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you.
You too.
Okay. All right. Last on the plate is our artist studio, Chad Smith and Marco. This is yours.
All right, Joel Halsey is the applicant. Is he here? Is he here?
I saw Joel's name on the screen.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so an application has been submitted to construct a 21-foot 2-inch by 42-foot 1-inch or 1,064 square foot artist studio on an existing residential parcel. The artist studio includes a lower level with 500 square feet of storage area and 600 square feet for a garage. The loft area of roughly 120 square feet is also proposed, and its square footage should be noted on the floor plans. The parcel is situated on Navy Road in an A residence zoning district. The existing 2-story, 1-family residence consists of a 1,350 square foot first floor, 950 square foot second floor, and an unfinished upper level attic. Section 255-11-88 of the Town Code, revised in 2019, sets regulations for an artist studio and provides that the planning board shall review and approve such. So in that same section of the Town Code, it limits the size of the artist studio to that of a legal accessory structure, or 600 square feet, unless the applicant demonstrates to the planning board the need for a larger size structure. If a larger structure is proposed, the planning board needs to determine that the property constraints make it difficult or impractical to construct a studio that is attached to the principal structure, to the principal building, or to construct a studio that conforms to the size of an accessory structure. The applicant has justified the need for a larger studio based on the applicant's art form and the scope or size of the work, or the size is compatible with the residential neighborhood. If the board makes a finding that the larger structure is justified, the following additional limitations on the size of the artist studio apply. No such artist studios shall in any case exceed the lesser of the gross floor area of the ground floor of the residence, which in this case is 1,350 square feet, an area equal to 5% of the area of the lot, or 3,982 square feet, or 2,500 square feet. The studio is proposed to be 1,064 square feet. However, an upper level loft area and lower level area are also proposed. The loft area is not considered to be a potential second story as prohibited in section 255-11-88 of the Town Code if it is to be used for storage only. The floor plans have labeled the area as storage loft, and the planning board may wish to discuss if the labeling is sufficient. The lower level consists of 500 square feet of storage and utility space and 600 square feet of garage space. The storage and utility space in the lower level is located below natural grade and would be considered a cellar and would not count towards gross floor area. Any part of the structure housing an artist studio and not used for such purposes is limited to the accessory structure limitation of 600 square feet. The garage space is 600 square feet and meets the size limitation. In the artist studio's definition, an artist studio shall not contain more than one story, but may be situated above a garage or other conforming accessory structure, and shall not have a gross floor area greater than that of the legally permitted accessory structure, except based upon finding what I've mentioned earlier before. So the current parcel is subject to pre-existing clearing numbers in accordance with the town's clearing ordinance of 2004. second, sorry. Clearing ordinance of 2004. The planning department has determined that the pre-existing clearing allowed should be 51,000 square feet. The survey submitted has listed the existing cleared area as 53,459 square feet, thus overcleared by 2,459 square feet. The applicant has submitted a revegetation plan to demonstrate that the lot will be brought into compliance. However, the planning department has noted that areas labeled as existing vegetation, proposed clearing, and proposed revegetation have multiple issues that should be addressed. The amount of clearing on a parcel does not include the square footage of vegetation that is below the line, which is determined to be top of the bluff. A survey prepared by James Walsh, Land Surveyor PC, revised April 23, 2020, indicates that the lot area of the parcel, excluding the area landward of the bluff, is 79,649 square feet. The revegetation plan depicts existing vegetation seaward of the bluff, and the plan needs to clarify that this area of native vegetation was not considered in the clearing calculations as it is not considered in the town code's definition of lot area. The applicant's revegetation plan has listed those areas as existing vegetation, and it is unclear if those designated area beyond the top of the bluff were included in the applicant's clearing calculations. The applicant has also proposed clearing on certain areas of the lot for the artist studio that will require a clearing variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. As the lot is already overcleared, any additional clearing will require a clearing variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. In addition, the area proposed to be cleared is considered by the planning department to be already cleared. The revegetation plan includes multiple areas as vegetated that are considered cleared under the town code. The definition of clearing, a sketch highlighting cleared areas, and photos of the surrounding landscape have been attached to the memo. The planning department has also noted that the proposed areas to be revegetated are proposed to use plantings that would not be considered as high quality revegetation. Let's see. The revegetation plan calls for the majority of plantings to be sedge grass and switchgrass, which are native plants. However, to restore the native vegetation, the planning department recommends planting additional woody shrubs, such as bayberry plants, to be included in the revegetation plan. Upon a site visit conducted during the time of review, the planning department had noted that the hillside in which the artist studio is proposed to be built partially into appears to be landscaped in conjunction with the neighboring parcel. It appears that mowing and leaf litter clearing are conducted frequently across the lot, resulting in less native vegetation and resulting in landscaped trees. Although the aforementioned revegetation plan indicates that the property will be in compliance with clearing, an existing building permit for a relocation of an existing shed and construction of a second garage with a patio is proposed to be located in areas of existing vegetation. Such proposals are also detailed on the proposed survey submitted by the applicant. Should the building permit be exercised, the lot will be cleared further and will require additional revegetation. The existing blueberry enclosure indicated on the revegetation plan is considered to be a structure and will need to meet the town's dimensional regulations as specified in Chapter 255-11-10, Accessory Buildings, Structures and Uses. It does not appear that the structure meets the side yard setback of 20 feet in an A residence zoning or meet the proper height for the town's pyramid law. In addition, black wire fencing along the top of the bluff was noted to be constructed with no prior approval. Chapter 255-4-40 of the Town Code, Coastal Setbacks, including bluff and dune crest setbacks, notes that no building or other structure shall be erected, constructed, placed, enlarged, or reconstructed within the 150 feet of the bluff line of lots with a lot area greater than 80,000 square feet. The total lot area of the parcel is 111,461 square feet. The fencing and structure are both located within 150 feet of the top of the bluff line and will require a natural resources special permit and a variance from the 255-4-40 coastal setbacks, including bluff and dune crest setbacks, or the structures could be removed to avoid such requirements. The structure will require an additional variance from the 255-11-10 dimensional regulations, or it can be removed. The applicant should provide additional details such as the height and setbacks of the structure to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Chapter 255-11-88 of the Town Code provides that an artist studio may have a sink, but shall have no bath, shower, toilet, or other plumbing. Floor plans of the studio depict that the interior space will have a sink and contains a notation that no bath, shower, toilet, or plumbing other than that for a sink is permitted. If the artist studio is approved, the applicant will be required to record the covenants and restrictions that include, among other provisions, that the studio shall not be used at any time for sleeping or living purposes, shall not be rented for any purposes, except as part of the rental of the entire property, and that no commercial exhibits, commercial classes, or other public events shall be permitted. The Town Code requires a number of documents to demonstrate that the applicant is a working artist, including description of the applicant's art form, professional fine art resume, documentation relevant to the applicant's art form, 3 letters of reference attesting to the artistic nature of the artist's work. The applicant has submitted documents and articles to demonstrate that the applicant is a working artist. The planning board should review the documents and may wish to discuss if the applicant can be considered a working artist. The subject property must address the overclearing as discussed earlier, in addition to addressing the structures and fencing located within the coastal setbacks detailed in the Town Code. The proposed survey also proposes an additional garage, which will add additional clearing that should also be considered.
Thank you very much, Marco. Again, very thorough, and this is a new area for us. So thank you for all the guidance that we're getting. Mr. Halsey, would you like to be heard on this?
Sure. I guess I'll just start off initially with the clearing. I just want to let the board know that in April of 2014, a memo was prepared by the Natural Resources Department stating that the property had a pre-existing clearing of 56,995 square feet. The applicant, had that memo and believed that their property was in compliance with the clearing. It was determined at a later date that the property was actually grandfathered into 51,000 square feet. So being that the property is overcleared now, we are trying to rectify that situation to bring it to 51,000 square feet. We are more than amenable to working with the town to prepare a revegetation plan that would be adequate for them. I believe some of those areas, the junipers that are landscaped might be considered cleared areas by the Town Code, but they were also considered vegetated areas by the town when they did when they figured out what the grandfathered clearing is on this property. So in sense, the town saying the area is vegetated, so you can't clear it, but now we're being told that it's vegetated with junipers, which are landscape materials, so it doesn't count as vegetation. So, again, the survey shows that as a non-cleared area, and that's what, we're going with. But again, we're more than willing to work with the town to develop a revegetation plan that will work for all parties. With regards to any of the clearing required for the artist studio, rather than getting a variance prior to any clearing, we would more than likely revegetate the property so that we would not bring the property into requiring a variance for overclearing. So the property would essentially be at 51,000 square feet before we start construction, and any additional clearing required for that. Regarding the clearing regarding the garage and the shed removal down on the corner of the property, that would be the southwest area, that project has been put on hold and is not going through at this time. It hasn't been started. There is I don't know if the building permit is still valid on that, but that project is not being done at this time. The property owner is working on the artist studio, and just for a little reasoning as to the size of the artist studio. This is a barn that they purchased upstate New York that they are going to bring down, or upstate or Pennsylvania, I'm not quite sure exactly where, that they would like to bring down to the property. And that's kind of the size of where the size comes from on this. It was also the size that they were looking for the artist's work. So this happened to work perfectly for them. They found a barn that they'd like to bring to the property and something that would work for the size that they need. I hope that addressed all of the clearing issues that might have come about. The blueberry pen, I personally, I wouldn't have considered that a structure. I would have considered that a raised bed garden with a fence around it. And obviously there's a fence over the top of it because it is a blueberry garden. You're trying to keep the birds out of it. If it's deemed a structure and it would need, a variance from the ZBA, I think we would have to consider probably just removing that. But if it was determined to be a fence and a raised garden, the fence being probably over 6 feet high, and being that it's a fence, it wouldn't need to meet setbacks, but it might need an ARB approval. That might be something that we could work on getting. But again, I wouldn't have deemed it a structure requiring to meet side yard variances. The town has, it seems like they have a different take on that. But again, to me, I would consider that a raised bed garden with a fence around it to keep animals and birds out. Again, building permit. Obviously we need to file. We know we need to file the covenants and restrictions on the property. We have those prepared. I think we have submitted copies of those to the town. This application's been, before the town for this application actually was submitted to the town prior to the planning board reviewing artist studio applications. It was actually submitted to the building department before the building department used to forward the application to the town board. And if if my timing's correct, the application was prepared prior to the town code changing, saying that you couldn't, the artist studio had to be 600 square feet and you had to show that it needed to be, why you needed the size of greater than 600 square feet. Again, that was changed in August of 2019, which wasn't very long ago. But again, we've been working on this. We've probably been working on the artist studio project since 2018. I've had many conversations with the building department at the time before submitting the application, again, because this application was initially submitted to the building department as was required. The building department sat on it because I guess at that point, the town had been discussing switching it from from the town board to the planning board. So this application's been, on hold for, a long time. It's, February or January 2021. And, the application's, been in for over a year. Just because, just bad timing on the part of, submitting an application.
We're hearing, I mean, this is a new thing for us too, we got.
Yeah, I think I might be the first artist who you guys are reviewing.
No, you're actually probably about the third or fourth.
Oh, wow, lucky me.
Well, you never.
You guys are used to it then.
Well, you never want to be a pioneer, Joe.
No, unless you're getting free land out of the deal.
Well, that's about 200 years too late for that. So
I hope I addressed all the questions for the size of the artist studio in the memo I submitted October 5th, 2020. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer the questions. I am not the artist, so they might be over my head, some of the questions. If you have any, I would be more than willing to take them back to the artist and get the answers. But I'd like to hear what the board has to say, and hopefully I can address any questions or issues you may have.
Yeah, before I turn it over to Kathy, who is the committee on this, do we have the usual, I don't call them affidavits, but the attestations about the artist, about the applicant and his artistic bona fides?
Yes, I submitted all of that.
Okay, because
I was looking through my file. I may have missed it.
They were emailed as well, like in terms of like the reference and the
The
artist's work.
references are in there.
There should be a portfolio in there.
I got the portfolio, but I don't seem to have the references. Because I looked through this afternoon.
I believe there was 3 references in there.
There should have been 3, but I don't have them.
Let's make, Kathy, let's make sure, and staff also, let's make sure that we have all that. So we're gonna have, this is not gonna be the last time we're gonna hear this application. So by the next time we're here on this, we should
Right.
have all of that.
So is it time for me to talk?
Now indeed it is. I just wanted to make sure, you have verified my lack of information.
That's
So-
okay. I was flagged to it earlier and I looked and I have we've changed a lot of our policies this year because of COVID, and I have a much more extensive electronic file than I used to have for things like this. And I remembered seeing the artist's work, which is really interesting, but I don't remember seeing the references, the letters of reference, which I believe 3 are required. So I'm sure that's, there's Jody showing us.
Jody, I was just about to say, could you please email some of that stuff around?
And a resume? Do we have a resume?
It's all that's-
Yeah, it seems it's all there. So I think, well, anyway, hi, Joel. Nice to
Hi.
see you again. This is, I think our new responsibility for determining who is an artist and who is not an artist is a heavy responsibility to my mind. And I think that's the first order of business. I'm not sure that everyone has the information available to be able to agree to that determination. I suspect we should follow the protocols we've used for the last 2 that we've reviewed. We've only done 2 that I know of, or begun. Yeah, we did 1. Yeah, we've done 2. So this is although this has been floating around for some time, I do feel like we have to, we haven't really established a full protocol, but I think we should stick to what we've done before, which is to determine if this meets the criteria for an artist, assuming that the resumes are in order, the recommendations are in order and the resume is there and it meets the other administrative requirements for the application, then I would suggest that this person qualifies as Chad Smith qualifies as an artist. I have a question about the name Mac. In my file, I have the Smith Mac Artist Studio. Who's Mac?
Nancy Mack would be Chad Smith's wife.
So is she an artist?
No, she's Chad Smith's wife. No.
I understand, but if we're using the criteria, it seems that we should.
Maybe she owns the property with him.
Yes, they're both property owners.
Right. So I guess I'm just trying to, I mean, I don't know, Thomas, maybe you have some advice on this. Should it be Chad Smith's name?
So I think larger issue is that if the board hasn't reviewed all the documents for determining whether he's a working artist, and it's definitely going to come up again in another meeting, I think it's better to not try to make a determination on that tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted to lay out, I wasn't planning to do it tonight because I don't have the letters of recommendation myself, but I'm saying that it seems to me we need to establish that first, and then we can go on to the rest of this. My recommendation, I mean, I have some questions about the studio itself because its placement on the property. I mean, I'm glad to know that you'll be submitting a revegetation plan because that's, of course, really important. But this is a very sensitive area, this land area, and I know Joel appreciates that. And I would like to, I have a couple of concerns regarding the placement of the studio itself.
Kathy, can I just
because
ask
it's
you?
built into.
Kathy, can
Yes.
I let me ask you a question. Is it your feeling that we should deal with whether the applicant is an artist before, or meets the qualifications, I should say, as an artist before we get into the actual site issues on this?
Yes, as a general sensibility, I do, but I think that there are some problems with this that we might as well flag to them now, that we're looking at it and that the applicant's representative is here.
Yeah, no, I recognize that. I don't want to waste anyone's,
Yeah, no, I
time
understand.
with it. It's just that and I'm looking at you for some guidance on this, and I'll ask Thomas also for some guidance on this, whether, if there is an issue about the application of the applicant qualifying, is that, a threshold question that we have to deal with?
Well, my personal feeling is that this, I think, without seeing all the required, documents, I can't say that he fills that requirement, but
No,
I've
we
seen his
can't.
work, and I think his work, I think he's an artist, so I think we're going to get there, but I don't think we can say that tonight because not everybody has had the benefit of that. And if you want to just stop talking about it, tell me and I'll stop talking about it. But my main concern really is that this building is built into, really hilly area. And we have some requirements in the code for not putting buildings where there are steep slopes. And this would look like a steep slope to me. So I would just like to review that a little bit. And it may be that the building needs to be put someplace else on the property. And I think that's worth having a discussion with the applicant now, unless you disagree or Thomas thinks.
Let me ask Thomas, what do you think?
I think that since we're here, might as well do it, but try to, keep it.
Yeah, that's my main
structured.
issue is, I think it's over cleared. There's a more level place on the property that this barn could go. I see I get the practical advantage of putting a garage below it and the barn on top of it. And it seems like a charming idea, but it's disturbing a very, steep slope, and our code generally, discourages building on steep slopes.
To address the steep slope issue, had this not been an artist studio and we were just proposing a 600 square foot garage in this location, we would be able to do it just by a matter of a building permit, right in this exact location. We would be able to put 600 square foot on top of 600 square feet, and it would be in the same location.
Okay, you're still disturbing a lot of land there, and it's right on the, it's right on the waterfront. So, then I would just shelve the discussion. We'll have to, if that's not, let's just wait then, because I don't think this is in a good spot. And if that's not something you can agree with, then I don't see any point in discussing it.
There isn't, and if you look at the site, there's not really many other areas on the site that we can fit it. There's.
Yeah, I have looked at the site. I do think there is another place you could put it, but we don't have to discuss that now. We can just wait until we have the, all the material. For all
I'm hoping you have all the material. This was all submitted back in 2018.
Right. No, I understand.
We're in 2021 now.
We can't do it tonight because the rest of the board doesn't have what I have.
Yeah.
So we can't do it tonight.
I think it's fine to discuss issues with the site. I don't think they should make any threshold, determination on the artist part. But if there's issues with the site,
I'm just baffled that this has been in since 2018 and it's 2021, and we're, this is a question being called up tonight. I figured.
Well, this is the first time it's been before us.
It's been in the town for 3 years.
Okay.
Excuse me?
I submitted this in 2018.
Well, it must have been incomplete. It must have been incomplete, or it would have come before us before now.
This was you had to submit this as part of the application.
Okay, I don't know what you want me to do, Joel. I'm trying to help you here.
We didn't have jurisdiction over these applications until 6 months ago, so.
Yeah, so, you know, we're trying to work our way through this in a fair and equitable fashion, and every one that comes before us is unique. It's a different, you know, it's a different piece of land, it's a different art form, it's a different, you know, so I'm trying to work this out, and for whatever reason, we can't make the determination about whether Chad Smith is an artist. I think he is, but the board can't do that tonight. I wanted to make this point about the slopes. I don't think it's a good place for the studio. I think it should, you know, I think there's a flat spot on it that's over. The other problem is I don't see how we can approve a site plan with the driveway that's on a neighboring lot. You know, there are those two issues to me need to be resolved. You know, that which can happen in a parallel form, to my mind, to the administrative piece of this that seems to be missing for our execution tonight, which is that
Why wouldn't you be able to approve a site plan with the driveway and the neighboring lot? I mean, we could always, it's probably an easement issue.
Yeah, so get the, you know, you've got to make that point. I mean, how can you you recognize that having the driveway on someone else's property is an unusual thing, right? I mean, we can't approve a site plan for access to a lot that goes on someone else's land. Even if it's, you know, owned by a friend or a neighbor or a relative, then if it requires an easement, then you should propose that. You know this business, you know, then say, we recognize that the driveway is going on the, you know, the lot to the south, and we'll propose an easement for that. But, you know, those are my two issues. So I would recommend that you just hear from the rest of the board, Sam, and we take this up.
Look, I don't want to waste the applicants, you know, having been here and being ready to go. At the same time, we do have to recognize that, you know, there's an issue about the what I called the threshold issue of whether the applicant's an artist. But I don't want to waste. I don't want to waste the applicant's time or our time. So I think it's useful for us to get these issues out on the table. You've raised two very important ones, especially, you know, if there's an easement that needs to be addressed or brought up anyway. What about the revegetation and the blueberry enclosure, Kathy? Kathy?
Excuse me?
The revegetation plan, there's a planning board question, a planning staff question about whether the revegetation plan should comply with the clearing and the fencing and the blueberry enclosure. I don't think, I may have missed it. You talked about that.
Well, I didn't talk, but I started off by saying that I am glad that the applicant is offering to revegetate it to the proper percentage before construction. Joel said that at the beginning of his remarks, so I acknowledge.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, you did.
And then I did not comment on the blueberry enclosure. I mean, you know, it's not that big, but if it pushes, it's not. You know.
We will double check with the building inspector to determine whether it's a structure.
Yeah, maybe we can do that. I mean, personally, I don't have that big a problem with it, but if it's not within the setbacks, then, you know, that's on them. So they can move it, you know, or not. I get it that you're growing blueberries and you've got to keep it enclosed, else the birds and the critters get it. But if it's not in the setbacks, then, you know, and maybe Joanne's suggestion is the best way to go, get a determination from the building inspector.
Okay. All right, let me, I don't want to go around. I'd rather just say, does anyone else on the board have anything that they want to add with respect to the issues surrounding the site plan itself, leaving aside issues of whether the applicant meets the artist's requirement, because that's obviously going to have to be a conversation, which may be a very brief conversation for another day. So go ahead.
I've got a question about the code requirement that says that if the applicant says that it's not he's not able to construct the artist studio attached to the house, he needs to demonstrate what it is that requires him to have a larger size than the 600 square feet. And I'm not sure that we got that information. Am I reading that correctly?
You did get that information. It was submitted on October 5th, 2020.
Okay, sorry, then I missed it. That was my question. I just wanted to get clear as to what the reasoning is there for the applicant to build a larger.
We can get you, make sure that you have everyone has all the documentation and the October 5th letter and put this back on the agenda next week if that's what you'd like to do.
Yeah, I want to get this back as quick as we can. I'm looking at Joel's October 5th letter right now, and it's, this is, all right. Let's make sure that we get it back. I don't know what our agenda looks like on next week, but I know we have a meeting. I think we have a meeting the following week also.
February 3rd.
And then, Jody, we have one on the 10th also?
Mm-hmm. We do.
Yes.
So if we can't,
yes.
If we can't listen, we're gonna endeavor. I want to let Mr. Halsey know. We're gonna endeavor to get this back quickly and make sure that everybody has everything that they need. If we can't get it on for the 3rd, because I know I've been going over the agenda for the 3rd, and it's starting to look a little crowded. If we can't get it on for the 3rd, we'll get it on for the 10th. We should be able to do that.
I'd like to add, if Kathy thinks that there's another location, maybe Joel can either demonstrate why he thinks this is where it needs to be, or, maybe Kathy can show us where she thinks that location is and just show the applicant what she's thinking. If this is going to be a discussion point, we should just see what everybody's thinking on this.
Sharon, I agree with your point, and Kathy. You can see where they're below the pool. That's flat.
Exactly. That's
and why?
Exactly my point, and it's near the driveway. So.
Yeah, and I also just want to second Kathy's. I don't get the driveway on somebody else's land without their permission. At least we have to see that they granted an easement, really a permanent easement, I would say, or the driveway needs to be relocated. The other thing I wanted to ask Sam and our attorney, and this is for this application, but also going forward, can we ask on these applications how the applicant makes their living? And the reason I mention that is that on the agricultural, there's various agricultural programs where you get property tax relief and so forth, and you have to demonstrate that you have an income of $10,000 a year. So there's an income threshold, and you have to show that you're actually supporting yourself or in part supporting yourself with the activity. And I don't know how far or if we can go there on these. Can we ask, how does the person make a living?
I can address that. I don't believe that's one of the thresholds for an artist studio, but in my October 5th, 2020 memo, you will see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's.
No, he's a famous drummer.
He's
in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's a big deal. So.
Well, that's one thing, being a drummer.
Yeah. Well, he uses his drumming to make his art. He does this whole photo thing with his drumsticks, and there's this light, thing. So it's related, and he's not supporting himself with that work yet. But I suspect people pay a lot of money for it. I mean, he's already, you know, he's a very,
also, it's a question about to what extent that is something we can legitimately consider.
Well,
Randy, I'll research the issue. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay.
I believe I believe a good portion of the sale of the art doesn't benefit him. It benefits charities.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that sounds like.
well, that would be great, but I don't know that that's relevant, really.
Well, I mean, I'm worried that you guys are going to consider that he doesn't make money to support himself off it. I'd like you to know that he's supporting others with the.
Yeah, no, I don't think you have to worry about this part, Joel. I think Randy's just asking the question because.
Well, Thomas said he's going to check into it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, let me just put it this way. Van Gogh didn't sell any paintings during his lifetime, okay? So at least that's the story. So, you know, it doesn't mean this guy, it doesn't mean that Chad Smith is not an artist, okay? I'm gonna be very clear about that. You know, what he does with the money and how he does it is a completely, I think, an irrelevancy.
I feel the same way. I don't think it's relevant, but you know, it's a good question. You know, we need to know, if not just for this application, but for those going forward.
Yeah, it may be relevant in that we're talking about providing studio space for working artists.
Right.
But you know what? You know, I'm going to stop this. We're going to talk about the artist, you know, issue at our next meeting.
Yeah, Thomas will find out for
right
us.
now, today, because I don't want this to be a waste of time. I just want to deal with the site plan. I'm calling it that. Site plan issues. Now, Kathy's, you know, raised at least two valid questions that we have to address, and that is the building into the slope and the ease or the absence of an easement for the driveway. Those are two things. Does anyone have anything else?
I have a dimensional question, which is in the floor plan for the building. It looks like there's very little workspace. There's stairs, there's storage, there's utilities, there's a garage, but I don't see a lot of workspace for the artist to work.
The drum set requires a 12 by 12 foot area, and then there's cameras set up throughout the space.
So he only really needs a 12 by 12
for the drum set, but the
Right,
cameras
but
need
they
to be
need
set
like
up
a 30 or 40 foot distance to set the camera up away from where the drum kit is.
He
So
also has sound shields that he has to put up.
yeah.
Okay. We'll go into all that, the particulars, to the extent we even need to. And I'm not suggesting that, you know, we do or we don't, but it's I've already
Well,
expressed.
Joe, that's helpful. Actually, Marco, I think, is showing us that there's a studio space there that's quite large, actually. But that would be the primary workspace.
Yeah, that's my understanding. The bottom is a garage, and at one side is the garage, and the other side is the utility, you know, the mechanicals.
Anybody else have anything on the site plan issues only? Nobody?
Nope.
Okay, all right, in that case, we're gonna get this, Joel, we're gonna get this back on. We're gonna make sure that the artist issues are, you know, that's something we can address fully next time, so that we're able to move this application along.
Okay, thank you. Okay, have a good night, guys.
So we're going to get all of the information circulated
Yeah, you know, look, this is
electronically or.
Well, you can always go in and check the file. That's always an option. I'm sure Jody is happy to hear me say that, but it is available electronically. I just don't seem to have the letters of recommendation. I have his portfolio. It's really interesting stuff. It's like light, you know, it's like the light drum.
Okay, the applicant's no longer here. Can we please not discuss the application?
Yeah, thank you, Tony. That's right. Okay, we are done with the work session part of the meeting. Let's move into the regular meeting. We've got the 294 Abraham's Path approval. Lou, this is yours. You have it?
Wait, sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ambush you there. Sorry about that. It's a waiver of subdivision approval.
Yeah. Hold on.
I just want you to.
Okay. Sorry, I got it.
Good.
Yeah, just got to.
It looks like this.
In the matter, wait, I keep losing it because.
Minimize.
In the matter of the application of 294 Abraham's Path LLC subwaiver, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-149-2-31. This is the waiver of subdivision approval. I have read it and I recommend its approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, hearing none, passed and carried 7-0. Okay, the next one, I'm looking for my more updated, there we go. East Hampton House pool approval. Ed, yours.
In the matter of the application of East Hampton House Pool Site Plan, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-188-2-4, I have read the determination and call for its approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed and carried 7-0. Kathy, if you could do Acrobonic Grove, I'm not going to block out, I'll sit here.
Oh.
Well, I can do it. It's mine. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Ed, I have to ask you to do that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Ed, would you please read the?
Yeah, happily, Kathy. Yes, I will. In the matter of the application of Acrobonic Grove Cemetery Expansion 2 Site Plan, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-103-2-4.1, I have read the determination and I call for its adoption.
Second. All in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so carried.
Please mark down at 6-0 with a recusal.
Yeah, 6 with one abstent. Well, he's not
Recusal.
abstaining. He was
Recusal.
recused. So 6 in favor, 1 recusal. I don't know. Do you even
Well,
report?
you know, that's what it is.
Nothing.
So, all right.
Okay.
Elmwood Park, Randy, that's yours.
All right. In the matter of the application of Elmwood Apartments Site Plan Special Permit, Suffolk County Tax Map 34967, the Planning Board has reviewed a prior determination of the board and desires to modify certain provisions of the approval as set forth below. Except as modified herein, the determination is reaffirmed in all respects. I've read the resolution and move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passed and carried 7-0. Okay, folks, it is 9:08 according to the clock on the screen. I don't think we have anything else. So with that,
Motion to adjourn.
there's
Second.
See you at Chittanova. See you at Chittanova in about 15
Yeah,
minutes.
now they're
It's words to God's ears.
52 minutes.
Yeah, we
See
did.
you next week.
All right, take care, folks.
Yeah.
We are adjourned.
Bye.
Thank you. Good
Bye,
night.
everybody. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Jody.